Generally speaking, try not to use abbreviations. Now, it might be that in your field that you have abbreviations that are common. However, they may not be common to you. You may have people that don't know them. One of the things is you got to realize too is that a lot of times you'll be talking when you're looking for a job that people who are not actually in the field you might be interviewing with. So even though you may be applying for a marketing position, you might be talking to the finance manager or something like that. So not only do you have that kind of a problem, also a lot of times human resources people are the people that are getting these things together. And the human resource people may not be up on the abbreviation. So you may know that you're a registered nurse, an RN. They may not know that. Now, they probably do know what an RN is, but the idea is exactly the same. Is that you don't want to abbreviate. And I'll tell you something else about things like abbreviations, and just this in general of people in management, especially when you start getting to upper management. If they don't understand what you're saying, they're not going to think they're dumb. They're going to think you are. As unfair as it is, that's kind of the mentality. I worked as an internal auditor. I dealt with people, all the way up to. Actually, I had a few meetings with the president of when I worked at Navistar. But the higher up you go, if they don't understand what you're telling them, it's not their fault. It's yours. So try to be as clear as possible about what it is. So don't abbreviate and expect that they know any of that stuff. So, anything you may have. So, an RN or, it's not letting me cancel it. All that kind of stuff. Try not to abbreviate. Write those things out. Now, these are ones that probably everybody knows, but apparently I know. I didn't finish it. So, try not to use the abbreviations. Also, when it comes to schools, don't do this. Is that Tennessee State University or what? They may not know who TSU is. And so using those kind of things are somebody going to add. And by the way, when they get a stack of resumes, that's the ones that they can't figure out are probably not going to get called back. Now, the stack of resumes won't be physical probably anymore, but the idea is exactly the same. Let me see something. I'm going to do something for a second here. Stop. All right. Let me go back to the screen here. Okay. Do not use all capital letters when you're writing. It has a bad connotation. It comes out of someone who's angry or someone who's nutty or whatever it is. But do not use all caps. Whatever. You don't want to do that. That's really for anything and any professional communication. Do not use capital letters. And I've seen it come up before where people have really gotten mad about it. Use complete sentences whenever possible. And that's on your resume or on the especially on the cover letter. But use professional sentences, use complete sentences whenever possible. So it's always better to use complete sentences. Now I know I've I've got partials here and there on this sheet, but when you're putting out your resume, especially, complete sentences are always going to be better than incomplete sentences. Again, it avoids confusion, and people are used to reading complete sentences. Where the idea might be as plain as day to anyone looking at it, but at the same time, people are used to reading complete sentences, and there are people that are really bugs when the sentences they don't get complete sentences. So you never know who you're going to be dealing with. Use complete sentences whenever you can, and that's pretty much for everything that you do here. Okay, a few things. Education section. A couple of basic things. Include the expected date of graduation. Oh, I'm typing in capitals. That's no good. Did not. If you write "I'll graduate in 1 year," that's pretty vague. A year from when? And are you talking about the end of the semester, next semester, or are you talking about the ending of the a semester a year from now, or when is it? Always put a date. Whether in May 2021, December 2021, or whatever it is, but put a expected date of graduation. All right, it's important for whoever's reading it to know what time frame you're looking at. Okay, include the type of degree you are receiving. Now, sometimes a number of people left this out. They'll say, "I'm graduating in whenever," but they didn't put what degree they actually had. So, or that they're trying to, that they're will be completing. So include the type of degree you are getting. Business administration, psychology, whatever it is, but include the type of degree that you're receiving. One reason for that is that when they look through the resumes, one of the first things they had to know is, are you qualified for the job? It's usually going to be an entry-level job for most people. And the big thing that they're going to key on is your education, because they're not expecting you to have work experience. If you're already working, as a manager or whatever, you probably wouldn't be getting a degree. So they're going to look for degrees that that fit what they're looking for. So always put in what type of degree it is. So business administration or whatever it is. Whatever it is to be. Take out any high school references, unless it's a high school that you're applying for. If you're trying to work in a school or a school district or whatever it is, you didn't want to take out the high school references. It's going to be assumed that if you got your college degree that you graduated from high school. So take out the high school references. Well, there's nothing wrong with having them when you're going through school. Certainly, there are jobs that require high school grade. When you start getting the professional area, you don't need to put that in. It's possible when you fill out something for a company that they have you enter that information, but take it out of your resume. So it is assumed that you have. Oops. Okay. This one is actually this list. I should probably put this one first. So this is so the first three ones there are just kind of cleaning up your resume. If you are looking for entry level, I didn't say students, positions, I should say. That's a typo. Entry level positions. Education and extracurricular activities should usually be first. Here is why. That's adorable. Here's why. Generally speaking, if it's an entry level position, they don't expect you to have work experience. If you're first professional position, they're not usually expecting that. Furthermore, your work experience probably does not fit what they're doing anyways. If you're looking for an entry level marketing manager job or something along those lines, they're probably not looking at what your work you're doing. They're probably not saying, "Oh, gee, marketing manager. Well, you should work at Starbucks if you're doing that." Well, they probably don't do that. So don't put Starbucks first. Don't put your work experience first. You probably don't have the work experience that they're looking for if they were looking for experience. So you lead with your strong, your strongest suit. You'll lead with, and so for most people graduating, it's going to be that you have a degree. The degree is going to open a lot of doors for you. That's why you're trudging through this stuff. So start out with your education first. Also, if you're changing careers, if the change is drastic, if the change isn't drastic, then you can lead with your, do something else. But if you're changing careers, it's also good to lead with the education. So if you change, for instance, my wife, she was an English professor, went back to school. She got her master's in sociology or social work, I guess it was. Anyway, one of the things that people would ask, well, why are you doing this? Because you have all this background. So she would always put her education and all that would be right up front first, that she got this, her degree in social work, because she didn't want them looking at this other, even though she had, several, a decade teaching, English, it just wasn't what she was going to do. She was going to change careers, so she put that second. And she was looking for an entry level position in, social work when she started out. Okay, so generally speaking, education, extracurricular activities should usually be first. When you get more experience, now you get to your second job or your third job or whatever, that's when you start putting your work experience first. So the first professional job, I would say put your education first, put your extracurricular activities first, usually. For your next jobs, they'll probably be looking for experience. They'll be a little more lucrative jobs, and for those, then you put your experience first. If you were working at as a marketing manager for 4 years, it's just assume that you have your degree, and you put it in there. But the more important part in that is, so years on, is that you have the experience. But for the first level, they generally aren't looking for it. And you probably don't have it anyways. I mean, you could. The only exception to this is if you're kind of moving up the same ladder. You're a registered nurse, you want to get into management, you're getting your MBA. That's a little bit different. You're probably going to be applying at hospitals, so that you might put your experience as a nurse down because it's relevant. You see, so none of this stuff is necessarily set in stone, but for most people, education first, extracurricular activities first, and then your work experience. Also include your academic awards. A lot of times I see people put down things like GPA 3.7. I ask it, were you on the dean's list? Oh yeah, I've been on the dean's list. Put it in. They're not going to know that unless you put it in. So be sure to include those things in your education. And again, usually that is the first section for your first professional position. If it's not your first professional position, your work experience, you may want to lead with that. But For most people, it'll be this. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, and this the second one here, this activity section, and this also goes for work history. The fact that you were in these activities is probably not all that interesting. The interesting part is what you learn from it. You know, if you're doing volunteer work, what do you learn from that? If you were in sports, you know, I was a sports, you know, I was the leader of the sports of the, you know, whatever, the football team or the baseball or basketball, whatever it is. I was a leader, and you know, that's fine, but what skills did you get out of it? And quite honestly, they're probably not terribly interested in how well the team did. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but you know, there's not going to be a requirement for them to fill that position to say, hey, oh, somebody, you know, whoever gets this, their football team had to win the state championship. You know, that's not going to be in the requirements. So it's important to frame it in skills. So, you know, I was on a team. I know, you know, how to be a team player. I know how to organize people. You know, if I was volunteering for something, I know how to organize people. Junior achievement, all the stuff that they do, learning about business and working with students and so forth. All big skills. I mean, those are the skills that come out of those are huge. The actual activity themselves are not that impressive usually, but the skill set that they get will definitely fit into what the employer is looking for. And remember that all of this is about the employer. That's another thing that we, to me, be perfectly clear. It's not about trying to make you look as good as possible. It's trying to fit what the employer is looking for. All right. So even though, you know, you do volunteer work and maybe they, you know, whoever is going to your resume, they may not even know what the organization is. But if you put on there things like that, you know, that you organize the, you know, volunteers to, you know, do this or fundraising or whatever it is, that's the interesting part. That's the part that has skills in it. That's the part that they can use. So always frame your activities in what you learned, what you gained from it. And that's why I say there, you know, there on your resume and on your cover letter, there are no bad experiences. You know, if you have the worst boss in the world, okay, you learn something from that. You learn how not to be a boss, right? I mean, so, you know, that's the kind of thing. Oh, I just said a word I got to talk about in a minute here. I shouldn't say boss here. All right, so that'd be in skill set. Work history. You know what's weird here? Let me just do stop sharing for just 1 second. I gotta. Okay. When I'm in the share a screen, I can't see any any of the chat stuff. So anyway, check. Okay. Work history. Now, work history, unless it is a very unless the work history you're really going to depend on it, you probably don't need to go into too much detail on it. If you worked at Starbucks, they probably pretty much know what you did working at Starbucks and all these other places. Now, nothing wrong with putting in there skill sets, though. I learned to deal with the public. I learned to deal with you know, the controls for cash. I learned how to deal with, you know, whatever it is. So the skill sets, you may want to throw something in there about that, you know, that you learn. But as far as going into great detail on it about exactly what you did, you probably don't need to. If it is a very technical field, or if you're relying on your work experience, then yeah, you know, go into detail. But for most jobs, especially entry-level jobs, you might put down a couple of skill things that you learned from it, and that's it. You know, put the dates and all that when you worked it. So work history. If you had many jobs, you know, you worked at a different job every summer, you did that for the last 7 years, you got 7, you know, or 8 jobs on there, you may condense it down to the last 3 or whatever, and then include this line or something similar to it. complete work history available upon request. So that, if they really want to go back to what you did when you were 16, you'll give it to them. That's adorable. All right. Is there any question on that? So your work history, here's what you don't want to have. You don't want to have a resume that goes on for 3 pages and that 2 pages of it is kind of fluff that they don't really need to see. So that's kind of what we're aiming at here, is looking at the from the employer's point of view, what they'll be interested in. And the fact that you worked at a gas station when you were 18 or whatever probably doesn't mean all that much to them. It could, but if you don't feel like you can put in skill sets in that for it, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, so skill sets. This is the one that comes up. If you say you're bilingual, be sure to put what the other language is. It'd be assumed that the first one is English, but put what the other one is. Saying you're bilingual does not necessarily mean that you speak Spanish. It could be that you speak German or you speak Polish or you speak whatever. So when you put in bilingual, not only that, when they do searches for, when they're searching for people for it, they might be looking specifically for the words Spanish. If it's not in there, if it's not in your resume, it won't get pulled out. Just simply putting in bilingual just means that there's 2 languages. It doesn't necessarily mean that you speak Spanish. So make sure you put in whatever the language is. Spanish or whatever. And you got to think about it. If it might be a German company you're applying to, and so when you say you're bilingual, they might think you speak German. It's certainly in the realm of possibilities. If you're applying to a German company, you say you're bilingual. I mentioned this before. I'm kind of going over it, but all sections should be focused on skill sets, and that really is what. So you didn't just play a sport. The sport gave you a skill set of teamwork. It gave you a skill set of leadership, of camaraderie, of dealing with people from different cultures, of there's all these things that you got from it. The sport itself probably doesn't matter as much to those people looking at the resumes, but what you gain from it, the skill sets you did. So whatever it is that you did, put it into the terms of a skill set of what you did. I learned how to X with people, communicate with people. I learned how to whatever, coach people. Okay. Cover letter. The cover letter, too many people think that the cover letter is, and I think this comes from the idea of branding. Brand, what's your brand? But the cover letter is really about the employer's needs. Now you're going to position yourself as market yourself as someone who fills those needs. But it's not about saying, oh, I'm such a great person, you need to hire me. It's more about focusing on what the employer needs and marketing yourself as the person who will fill those needs of the employer. So the cover letter and all this stuff is really about the employer's needs. So while it is important to, the kind of branding yourself, making your own brand, making your own vision of how to market yourself, at the same time, you got to keep focused on your customer, and your customer is the employer, and that's who you're trying to make happy. So you are trying to focus So focus your brand on the employer's needs, whatever it is. They need people who are reliable. They need people who are creative. They need people, whatever it is. That's what you're going to focus your brand on. And when you think about branding, it isn't necessarily that it's taking whatever is there and I don't know how to say this, and then they have it come out sounding negative. If you want a brand to say a car is a luxury car, you can do it, and you try to make it look, like a luxury car, even though it may be very similar mechanically to the other cars that the company's selling. So the idea is that when you brand something, you actually are trying to focus on a certain niche, a certain market, and whatever that is, as far as what the employer's needs are, that's kind of what you're going to focus your branding on. So, well, the cover letter is it's talking about you, but it's really focusing on the employer's needs. What do they have? Do not call somebody a boss. That has negative connotations. I know I just used that. I said that was a bad boy if you had a bad boss, but do not use that in your cover letter or resume. What do you call them? Supervisor. Instead of your boss, they're the supervisor or manager or immediate supervisor. Oh, that's not high school supervisor. Oh, another thing, what I just did here, make sure you do spell check on your resume. So don't use this. This can sometimes come off as a somewhat of a derogatory term. When you're talking about the company, you're addressing it to people who are inside the company. So don't talk about the company as if it's some third thing that's outside of you and whoever the reviewer is. The reviewer is going to recognize that company as being their own. So if you're sending this to General Motors, you can say, okay, address it to, your company if you're saying it directly to whoever the reviewer is, or the General Motors company. I'm good for. So don't address it as the company or some third party. It's not. It's the same. It should either be to whoever the reader's company is, or specifically to the General Motors or whatever company it is you're looking at. Questions on that? Okay. As far as professional references, a couple things. I got to add something here, but first one, do not heap praise on your. You do not have to defend your references. That this person is the leader of X, Y, and Z, or this person is. You don't need to do that. What do you do? What do you need for the references? This is what you need for the references. You need their name, their position, and their contact information. Whatever else is on there, whoever calls up is gonna fill in the rest of it. So you do not need to go on and on that this is why this person is such a great person, or that they're a supervisor and their whole background and history and all that. You don't need to do that. And quite honestly, it would just be distracting. Name, position, contact information. And I've had hundreds of people call me up through the years for references to students. And they'll say, "Oh, I know. Well, who are you?" I'm an instructor at the whatever. And okay, what do you do? And they go through, and they'll always ask me, about attendance is the first thing they ask me usually, about attendance and grade point average, working with others, all that kind of stuff, or grades and classes and so forth. So those are the things that they're going to. They don't need to know my history. I give it to them if they want, but usually that's what they're looking for. A reference, someone that knows you, is going to be able to tell honestly what it is. Along those lines, they will generally say that you have non-relatives do it, and these are professional. Oops, man, I cannot type today. So anyway, it's about as professional references. The only exception to that, the exception is if you actually worked at a family. If you actually work for a relative, you can use them then. But I would still have other ones in there too. If you, my Aunt Sally owns a restaurant. I work for her. You can use her as a reference because it's actually a work reference. It actually is a professional. But generally speaking, you don't want to use relatives in there. And when you fill out the forms, they'll say you need 5 non-relative references or whatever it is. Virtually always going to be 3 at least. But they're going to professional references. They would generally almost always have at least 3 in there. So even though your relatives are going to know you the best, and I'm sure they're honest people and all that kind of stuff, for employers, they probably wouldn't even call a relative, to be honest with you. So make sure you have professional references are from people on the outside. Anyone who's ever worked with you, who knows you, who you deal with, it could be instructor, it could be me, it could be whoever it is. Use somebody besides your relatives. Any question on this? Any question on that? All right. So what I'm going to do next is, if you go, and this will be a. I'm hoping this works. If you go into Blackboard, I actually have an exam. It's listed as an exam. It's not really an exam. It's just extra credit points. Let me do screen share here. All right. If you go into Blackboard under assignments, and under assignments, I wish it stayed lit. Okay, under assignments, go all the way to the bottom. Probably should have put this at top. It'll say extra credit Zoom meeting about resumes. I'm interested to see if this will work. Okay, so you get something like that. Hey, how come it's not showing my continue? Darn it. I might have to go.
Is this a time check?
It's not timed.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
It's real short though. It's 5 questions that we should be able to answer in a matter of seconds here. And I'm interested in it just because I want to see. Let me get back to. Okay, where am I at? I gotta go to the other one. Okay, so let's see. It should be under assignments. not showing it. Can you guys click any? Do you guys have a begin?
Yeah. My question's in there.
It's not showing on mine. Let me do something here. I'm gonna switch out of this. It might be something with my screen sharing. Let me stop it. See if I can click on anything there. Okay, here it is. Begin. Okay. Let me go back. I did it wrong again. Isn't this fun? All right. Here we go. Okay. Question one, a resume for a college graduate's first professional position will usually have the education section where on the resume? Probably near the top.
Did you want us to answer these questions along with you?
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it together. And I kind of want to see how this works out. There's 5 extra credit points here. I want to make sure that these actually work, because I might start doing this stuff more frequently. And I think the problem with doing these webcast things is that there's no follow-up on it. You know what I mean? There's no actual working to reinforce the items. A resume for an experienced professional. We usually have the what section placed near the top of the resume?
Would that be work experience?
Yeah. Yep. So first, your first professional position, probably have your education first. Once you've gotten your, and by the way, the second question, this is what you almost see all of the places that have the demonstration, the examples of resumes. They almost always focus on this. So that's why, when I see people have this on there, they have their work experience first, that's usually for someone who's already in the field.
I'm sorry, but my question's not coming up. I thought it's telling me near the bottom, near the top, not on, at the end. I don't know what's wrong, man.
Yeah. So we clicked on, is B, can you click on B?
I can click on it, but okay, but the first one is kind of crazy. Okay, so, okay.
Yeah,
Man, don't say that for the first one. Oh, that is right then. Okay, I'm blind.
You're busy. That's cute. All right. So someone who's experienced will usually lead off with their work experience. That's usually what the employer's gonna be looking for. A professional reference should include
I'm also assuming it would be C.
Yeah. Their name, contact information, and title. Again, you do not need to go into detail on them. You're not defending them or anything like that. And from the employer's point of view, they just want someone who knows you that they can ask questions about it. The importance of extracurricular activities on your resume is?
Show work skills.
You for something in your skill set. So whether it's working with people, organizing, leadership, whatever it is, those, and always frame it in those terms. You work for junior achievement, and we organized this, and we led this, and all that kind of stuff. Term bilingual on the resume indicates that the applicant can. This is one of those things that'd be the best. The best one would be C. Speaks 2 languages. That's why my reason for putting this here is make sure you put on what it is. And again, if they're looking for someone who speaks Spanish or Polish or whatever it is, they may do that in their search. And if you just have bilingual on there, that may not pick it up. You know, they may be looking for the word Spanish or Polish or German, whatever it is. So the bilingual by itself doesn't mean as much as, say, putting the actual second language in there. All right, and then I think we just submit, or does it show how many? Does it show you any other? Oh, save and submit. Click OK to review results. Hey. Oh, there you go. 5 out of 5 points. Okay. Woo. Very embarrassing if I got any of those wrong since I wrote them. But yeah, so anyway, hopefully I'll do so. I'm planning on doing these after every one of these, just to throw some extra points out there and actually make it a little more reinforced. Any question on that? And by the way, when you turn in the stuff, I just turned back the stuff on the resumes and the cover letters and references. If you're missing anything, or if the grade isn't what you want, you can resubmit anything. And when I put in the grade, it'll be the highest grade. So if you're missing something, or if you want to resubmit something, you fix something on it, you want to resubmit it, fix the formatting or grammar, whatever it is, do that, and I will enter the higher grade, whatever is the higher grade. Yeah, I'll put it this way: you can't lose points by resubmitting. At worst, it won't be any better than the previous one. So, any questions on that? All right. Okay. So any questions on any of that? I know you guys, the group presentations, I think I might back up the group presentations a little bit. I'll probably back them up like a day, because I know that some people are, the people in their group are not responding. And actually we've lost 4 people in the last, well, I don't know. There's actually 2 classes that work in here. So anyway, 4 people have got, so it's possible if someone's not responding to you, it's possible that they are no longer in the class. That's also a possibility. So anyway, I'll go ahead though and take a look at the due date, and I'll probably back it up to at least probably like Thursday. And if you're still having problems with your group, though, let me know, and we'll try to arrange to have. You can either do it on your own and let me know that, and if you haven't heard anything from your group, and you want to do it on your own, you say, at some point you say, well, I'll just do the thing.
One of my group members didn't feel good over this weekend, okay? And she had to work on this presentation. She did not feel good. Now you're going to push it back, and she was sick this weekend, and we done?
No. Well, if you're done, I know.
We done,
hey,
but she was sick.
Hey, I didn't get her sick this weekend, okay? It wasn't me. But no. The problem is that there actually are group members who are no longer in the class, and so it's these classes were I actually have 2 sections of it. They're tacked on. I literally got these classes the night before the semester started. But anyway, yeah. So but I'll take a look at it. I won't penalize, especially people that are having problems with your group, that they're not responding and that sort of thing. But anyway,
I have a question. Actually,
Sure.
Let me start my video. So what happens if we already are in a position, like if we're already working? What do we just put our current employer now on our resume, and you'll just go based off that?
Yeah. So you're already in the job that you're going to stay at when you graduate.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would probably put down. Well, first of all, you have work experience with them, but you can certainly lead off with the work experience. If you're already working in the field that you plan on being in, I would say put the work experience first, because you're
Okay.
not looking for an entry level job. You're already working in the as a professional. So.
And I didn't catch you in the beginning, but I'm a little old school. Do people still do objectives?
Yeah, and you do, and the objective. It was sometimes some people do, some people don't. I mean, I've seen resumes with them and without them.
Okay.
Sometimes they kind of rely on the cover letter. I would say put something in. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't really talk too much about that. Again, going back here, and when I say the education section, the actual wording I think I used is near the top. So
Okay.
it doesn't have to be the first, yeah. So in that first, the objective statement, and when I was going through you had to have an objective statement, and it usually had to match the job that you were looking for, obviously.
Mhm.
So that objective statement, now you have in the beginning, again, that should be focused on the employer and not
Okay.
on you. It's not about you venting and all all the stuff about yourself. It's about really focusing it on what the employer is looking for. The employer is
Okay.
your customer, so.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.